Swedenborgian community online. Hi folks, that was my attempt at a live introduction. Because today is a new day, we are now on Spreaker, which won't mean very much for many folks who catch us on iTunes and Android and YouTube and Facebook, etc. But for those of you who like to connect with us live, and I appreciate those who do and those who don't as well, you may tell the difference. And so let me know if this is working for you. And all in all, I really like this platform. So I think it fits because today we are focusing on music. And although there won't be much reflection tonight, I want to connect with you all in the chat sea and just catch up, hear what's going on in your life. I get the vast honor of sharing some new Swedenborgian music with you today from the Reverend David Feckety, as well as some of the classics, some of which I just fell upon and I'm excited to hear. But David's album is amazing. So maybe we should just start by playing something from him. This song is called Musings as We Get Settled, taking a few breaths to let the music uplift our spirits, allowing divinity to embolden her expression within us. Well, that was lovely music from Dave Feckety, and we get to hear the beginning just a little bit before we reflect a little bit about music. And I love that song especially with its melodic instrumental tones because it seems to kind of almost like paint a picture for me. I envision ponds, I envision nature, peaceful setting when I hear that. And I'm curious how music touches your spirit and how it helps you perhaps connect better with the world around you. One of the things I love about music, personally, is that it seems to be the language of spirit. The tone of music, the sounds, and how they carry you forward tend to remind me of affections, of the deep aspects of our hearts made resonant and illuminated. And then if you add words, much like a poem, I tend to take those words as metaphor, symbol for deeper things within my life, within my connections with community. If you know anything about Swedenborgianism, we are grounded in a mystical Christianity that believes no matter your faith, you can connect to divinity and connect with heaven every day. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, atheist, Christian, as long as your heart is oriented towards the qualities of divinity. You may call that something else. You are loved and uplifted by that divinity, whatever you call her. So I think it's really powerful when we turn towards nature, since divinity's speaking to us all the time, no matter who we are, within our spirit and outwardly. Turning towards nature allows us to maybe listen a little more closely to God. And music, I think, is similar. When we turn to music for illumination and rest, I think it allows our spirit to recenter on peace, which is the crux of most scripture the world over, center on relaxation and connection, and a type of relaxation that I hope emboldens you to do work in this world. So as we reflect on what music means to us and how music can engender divinity in our living, uplift our justice work, our healthy connections with other people, let us listen to a song by Laurie Turley called Gypsy.
I'm leaving soon. If I could travel back in time, a simpler way to be, I'd like to join those people who were joyous, fierce and free. I hear the sound of horses and the tinkling of the bell, voices raised in laughter, strange songs and violins. And there up on the hilltop I see a caravan, wagons drawn up in a ring. It is a gypsy band. I want to be a gypsy, I want to feel my blood run wild, dance around the campfire while sparks rise to the sky. I want to shake my long hair loose and let it shine in the firelight. I wanna be a gypsy tonight. I see the flowing dresses, the brightly colored sashes, the shine of golden earrings beneath the red bandanas, leather boots and shiny belts, the handle of a knife, all the tools and accoutrements of a free and dangerous life. I want to be a gypsy, I want to feel my blood run wild, dance around the campfire while sparks rise to the sky. I want to shake my long hair loose and let it shine in the firelight. I want to be a gypsy tonight. and only for one day. I climb up on my pony and I would ride away, because I want to be a gypsy. I want to feel my blood run wild, dance around the campfire while sparks rise to the sky. I want to shake my long hair loose, let it shine in the firelight. I want to be a gypsy tonight.
What a fun song by Laurie Turley. Yeah, I want to shake my hair loose if I had any to shake out. That's great. I love that spirit of free expression and openness. Often we get caught in our dogma, in our trench. No matter our background, we tend to judge people against that and dismiss people who aren't like us. And I think that song does a great job of kind of loosening the thought up, the entrenchment up, if we try to emulate it. Gypsiness. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the metaphor of being a gypsy. I think often when we think of gypsy, we think of people who move around a lot, often they're transient in nature to some degree and work eclectic jobs, much like those of us here in this community. We come in all shapes and sizes and varieties, hoping to uplift each other despite those differences. In fact, Emanuel Swedenborg, the 18th century theologian, who considered himself to be a mystical Christian, he believed that no matter our tradition, Christian or not, as long as we received goodness in our spirits and tried to live it, we had that connection with divinity, as I talked about. But even more so, the more diverse we are in connection with God, the stronger God's kingdom becomes. Goddess has in store for us a community in heaven, according to Swedenborg. He wrote quite a bit about his mystical visions of heaven and what he thought the inner sense of the Bible was and things like that. And heaven specifically was full of all kinds of people, even aliens, according to him, all connecting in various ways in various communities. And that's what allowed for the perfection of heaven. That's what made it robust and what it is, what it was meant to be. Not only that, it connects with us here today, every day, and illuminates our thinking, our spirit, and our connections here. And we can lean into that. We can learn from the type of justice and community there is in that mystical realm underlying everything to, embolden our health, embolden our healthy thinking towards others, and help shed our destructiveness, which, according to Swedenborg, is the essence of the opposite of heaven, is wanting to lord over others, dominate, oppress, on and on, those types of things are hell in a sense. If you love those things to the extent you really live that way, you love hell, and you're creating hell within and without a bit. So let's no longer own those destructive things and allow them to flow away from our spirit, finding healthier practices to help withdraw us from some of our more harmful habits. And let us also acknowledge where all the goodness comes from our higher power, from the lady within who gives forth to all life, all good structure and wisdom. Let us accept that source so that we can shed our ego when it comes to how productive or good we may think we are. And also I think it helps us look at other people a little differently and see the divine spike in their eyes that we all share. And then maybe uplifting other people is a little bit like uplifting the God within ourselves. And with that, I want to play another new song from Reverend David Feckety, and this one called Rosebud. I'm curious what you all will think about this. And here's another one called Space Blues. I really love the singing in that one and the instrumentals. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the musicians on these songs, as some of you are asking about in the chat. See, as I do know about Reverend David Feckety, who brought them all together and wrote every piece. I know this has been a labor of love for Reverend Feckety. It's taken a little while to get everything going and get it all recorded, as you can imagine, I'm sure. And I think he hired local musicians, got in connection with folks near where he's at in Edmonton. And yeah, so I don't know much about the artists on the album besides David, but I don't think any of them necessarily connect with the Swedenborgian community at all. They're mainly just local musicians, which is fantastic. But in case you were wondering if you know any of them, if you're a longtime Swedenborgian, I don't think so. And I'm not sure which parts he's playing either. I know he likes to play himself often, but that was clearly not him singing, and neither was it him on the last track before Laurie Turley. But we are blessed, no matter what their names are, by that beautiful music. I love the title, Space Blues, and the whole approach to that meandering sound. I found it inspirational in a way that invites meditation. You know, maybe it's the idea of space, just generally, and that kind of, not like Pink Floyd exactly. I don't know what that sound is called, but the almost calmly psychedelic reverberations of certain tones, and how they can draw you within and without in a way. I guess no matter what we think about in a way, we project ourselves. We tend to look at things through our own lens. There's really no way around it. We can try to learn about our growing edges and expand our field of view. But even something like space, which most of us haven't been in, besides, you know, the fact that we're in space on this planet, but, you know, outside of our atmosphere and the gravity of Earth, we still, I think, have a type of deep illustration that we apply to what it would feel like floating into space and seeing the beauty of the stars around us. And often it conjures a meditative aspect for me. So I invite you into maybe a space odyssey for the next moment as we turn to a meditative lens. And if you're sharing on the Chatsy, please continue to do so. But let us take a moment and allow music to pull us toward the stars of the wisdom of the cosmos. O Holy One, you with many names, within and without. We commend our hearts to you. We commend our spirits to your illumination. The suns, the stars are a small image of your power, of your giftedness, of the gifts you give to all of us. As the life on this planet is sourced from the warmth of our sun, so is all life sourced by the gift of your Spirit. Please continue to invigorate us, continue to empower us more and more towards expression of you in our own finite way. Help us to see that we are truly interstellar objects, brought together as the minerals and elements only possible through the forging of the suns. Allow us to be gracious for such a myriad of blessings, of impossibilities brought together to make each of us and to make our fellow people. Help us to see that in our diversity we receive you in various ways, much like the various life on this planet, the various shapes in the elements, in the solar systems of this universe. May we continue to use the gifts that you give us to gift other people with blessedness and support, starting from where they're at instead of where we might like them to be. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, this is an informal community discussion, so I should probably just riff a little bit with you folks. I love the conversation in the chat seat today. It's wonderful. You all are supporting each other and your connections with family, which is wonderful to see. My heart goes out to all the family members and each of us needing support and strength from God, from each other, and I'm so happy that they have you. It's truly a blessing, those connections, and I'm grateful for them, for you, and for myself. I'm really lucky. I hope we all consider ourselves lucky, even if we're sometimes dealing with trauma, dealing with hard situations. There are many gifts within and without, but sometimes it takes a little bit of work to see them. I know I'm not as grateful as I should be. One thing about music, I don't know about you, but for me, it helps me find that place of gratefulness, of graciousness in a way. I don't know. I'm curious if those same workings are true in your life. I'm sure they are, based on what everyone tends to say about music, although there are a couple people I've heard say they don't like music, which is amazing to me. But you never know what they're hearing. Some of us can't hear tones the same way and can't follow melodies. Our brains can't. So maybe it's just dissonant music for us. But there's a music to the world, to the people around us and nature. And like the musician that God is, I think we are tasked with uplifting that music in the world around us and in nature, instead of demolishing it, instead of taking it for granted and dominating it. We instead use the magnifying lens of our spirit to magnify divinity in others. And with that, I want to share another song This one also from Laurie Turley. She's a wonderful musician, isn't she? I'm curious how this one sounds, because this is the first one I didn't listen to, and it's called The Edge.
I've been on the dark side of life. I felt the cut of the night. I felt my feet sliding toward the edge. Felt my fingers slipping from the ledge. But each time the colors got too blue, I found a friend reaching to pull me through, telling me as sure as the sun goes down, as dark as the night gets, there comes the dawn. But each time the colors got too blue, I found a friend reaching to pull me through, telling me as sure as the sun goes down, as dark as the night gets, there comes the dawn. There comes the dawn. There comes the dawn.
Oh, what lovely tunes. And I've been reminded before, and so before you remind me again, I will let you know that that guitar music from a few moments ago was my own. It's actually kind of a riff off of a song called, what is it called? In the Sill of the Night? Something like that, that I wrote a while ago. I could try to sing it, but I would probably forget the lyrics. I did not prepare it for tonight. And speaking of my music, I did prepare a song that you all heard moderately recently. And it's a little bit different than before. And I hope you'll bear with me if it's not news to you. But this song is called Sunrise. Let me sing a simple song about the one I love. Won't we sing another one about the rising sun? And as we fall, we find it's not the end. Like when we die, we will find that they're still living. And as the earth was, we find deep winters come. Like when our fears rise and we find that they are barren. In the beginning, she created you. So now that you're on day one, find you're not avoided. I think it's ridiculous to explain us with the distance. And as we fall, we find it's not the end. Like when we die, we will find that we're still living. And as the earth was, we find deep winters come. Like when our loves rise and we find that they are barren. Walking toward the garden, she will carry you. You will feel your shackles lifting. You will find you're not so weary as she replaces death with a little bit of infiniteness. And as we fall, we find it's not the end. Like when we die, we will find that we're all living. And as the earth was, we find deep winters come. Like when our heads rise and we find that they are barren. And as we fall, we find like when we die, we find. And as the earth was, we feel the sun rise. Well, I gotta admit, folks, part of the reason I did that song is because not only are we on a new podcasting platform, Spreaker, today, but I have a new mic here. It is a little bit better than the one I had before. I hope I'm coming across clearly. I had to change one of the settings mid-song because it sounded like I was breaking up, which is a little distracting. But that is what today's for. We're working through the kinks of the new technology, and I like how it's going. I hope you all are enjoying Spreaker. It sounds like I'm clearer, so that's good. But whatever your feedback is, it could be about how we communicate, what you hear from me on Thursdays and Sundays live, or whenever you're able to catch us. Offer that feedback. Let us know how we can do things better. I know our web platform's a little old. We've hopefully made it easier to use for you if you're a SwedenborgianCommunity.org goer. I like it. I think it's nice. It's a nice place for worshipful home. You know, it's kind of like the cathedral. The cathedral and many of our live worship experiences, our in-person worship experiences. There's a certain oomph that some of the traditional things bring, but honestly, most of the hiccups on the website are behind the scenes. So thankfully, you don't have to deal with that. I'm curious what hiccups are in your life today. What things are you working through, and where are you seeing divinity illuminate, maybe call you to better action, maybe where God isn't speaking in your life, maybe you want a little bit more clarity, a little bit more love. Because, like our bodies, like the website, like our podcasting platforms and our cameras, and I could go on, right? We are limited somewhat, seemingly, by our environment. We're limited by our musicality, the tone that comes from our voice, our instruments, the amount of practice we have, our abilities. But does that mean we can't be a conduit, an instrument of the Lord? Not at all. Not at all. And I feel like when we acknowledge some of our foibles instead of being shy about them, and acknowledge that, this is how we've been receiving it, this is the limitations as we see it, I think it opens a door, because then we start to see the canvas that we're working with, and we can start to paint on it, paint with the tools that we have, knowing that it's divinity that inspires us in even that finite field of range. And I think as we go along, we'll find that the canvas is much bigger than we initially thought. That's true for blessings and gifts all the time, isn't it? We don't quite see them for what they are. I hope as we listen to this next tract called January Snow by Laurie Turley, we can reflect on the gifts in our lives, inviting divinity, inviting our own meditative contemplation to enhance our gratitude for them, enhance our willingness to see divinity even in what seems to be their finite forms.
Summer
It's you I love. That's the message that the lady speaks to us in every moment. The divine human one, as Emanuel Swedenborg described God, is gender inclusive, inclusive of all the gifts, all the goodness, all the helpful structures of humanity and nature. All creation, actually, is in the image of divinity in a way. But those of us, human beings included, who can reflect on that source and reflect on God and acknowledge where our beauty comes from, have kind of a special place in creation, you could say. It's a place of true likeness of divinity, a place of calling to further our ability to embody God and her creatressness and his wondrous musicality, you could say, his wondrous ability to uplift and connect and be at peace even when things are turning destructive. Easier said than done, right? But as Scripture often says, in God, all things are possible. And I find it's much easier when we acknowledge that that's true. It's much easier for impossible things to happen in our practice, in our spirit, when we're willing to acknowledge that there's a higher source. You can call him something else if you want. The university for the scholars in our midst sometimes seems like God. Maybe that's the image of divinity in your life. But the universe also, what I was trying to say. I think some of us have a deep connection with nature and the universe and are willing to say, I think that there's a deep comprehension, a deep compassion in the things around me, in the arc of history, perhaps even in the providence of every little moment. And many of us talk about the universe in that light, how the universe is trying to connect with us, uplift us. Of course, many of us use other words as well. Allah. The Hindus, of course, have many names for the expressions of divinity. As the Vedic scriptures say, the expressions of divinity are like drops of rain across the entire universe. I hope we are willing to see it that way. If not, maybe this will connect with you. No matter where we come from somewhere. We have body thanks to our parents, thanks to the whole line of humanity. We have the ability to speak thanks to society. We have food, of course, thanks to that as well. We wouldn't get very far if we started off as a baby. Of course, we wouldn't get very far if there was no other humans. Even the things that we sometimes take for granted, like the roads, like our police force, military, the people around us making all this beautiful society work, we often take for granted. And yes, it can be destructive. We can have bad leaders. We ourselves can be quite selfish. But that doesn't mean that those things are gifts, that those things gift us with our ability to do whatever it is we do, to do our own work, to be good in our own way, to uplift our self-care, our society care as well. And I think acknowledging that it's all a gift, even your ability to choose to work hard. Sometimes we say, well, I work so hard, I did this myself. Even that's a gift. Even that is at a crux of the gifts of your life, whether it's your environment, your spirit, your connections, etc. It's all a blessing. So, in that vein, be music to other people's ears. Be a melody that makes them want to pause and be gracious for the world and the people around them. I think that's what we're all striving to do in this community, hopefully. I want to strive to do that, as I like to put. I think it increases our blessedness within, our joy, to turn towards a different kind of living, one that illuminates instead of dominates, that seeks peace through welcome postures, through healthy reflection and connection. And I want to play another song before we start to wrap things up. I'm really enjoying the conversation in the Chatsy. Elbert is sharing some of his studies with the Japanese language, which they're mind-blowing. I don't see how how someone could be so dedicated to language and to learn so much. I think it's magnificent. He has quite the skills, the proficiency in his work, in his studies, as many of you do, and I really appreciate hearing from you all. I try to hit a few notes on a guitar, and that's not always going very well. And I'm just inspired by the connections and the work that you do, and what it brings, the community it brings, the inspiration it brings in your own life and spirit. I can't thank you enough, and my words are inadequate. So, since they're inadequate, let us turn to a song without any words from Reverend David Feckety called Prayer. So if you haven't noticed, I'm not quite entirely used to the technology, and when I play Reverend David Feckety's music, it's also on another platform, so that makes it even more confusing for me. But I'm getting the hang of it. I like the new platform. I hope you did too. I hope you can connect with us clearly and hear the dulcet sounds of these wonderful musicians across the airwaves. I thank you for your connection. I thank you for your musicality, even if you're not musical at all. Our musicality is often in just the way we live our lives. The movement of our head is a ministry because it, in a way, expresses some of our deep motives. Every moment that we're not asleep, I'm guessing, we are in somewhat of the posture of our heart's deepest desires. Even if we try to hide it, we may have masks that we put on, of course, to get through this world. We are a ministry, we are worshiping every moment. But that the thing that we worship may not be the same for each of us. I know in my own life I've often worshipped selfishness, egotism, things from my selfish desire. That can illuminate my thinking. I may not even be aware of it, but it could be the source of maybe some fantasy in my head, and maybe not an intentional fantasy, just the way I interpret things. It may be the motivation for how I judge others, seeking to dominate them without thinking it's domination or something bad. Often the idol in our worship is ourself, of course. And I think that keeps us a little bit closed off to the music of the Spirit. I think worship of self turns our face away from the divine face within and above and around. It tends to start to shut us off from the illumination of that spiritual sun. So, what practices, what musicality can you go about this week to help illuminate that loving sun, illuminate the wisdom in your life towards healthy living, toward ridding yourself of so much self, not in a detrimental way where you're letting people walk all over you, but actually in a way that opens you to discernment towards true care for yourself and for others and nature, that allows you to shed the trappings of selfishness, and instead find the freedom of the divine Holy One who is hoping to communicate with you in every note. Well, this has been another broadcast from the Swedenborgian online community. I have to thank you all for connecting. Please subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, Android, and YouTube, and go forth knowing that you are quite loved.